Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of D4 Data Channel podcast. I'm your host Deepak, and with me we have Mr. Ramsri Goutham. Ramsri has over a decade of experience working in a variety of startups, and he has been exploring and building a lot of innovative AI-based SaaS solutions. His Questgen.ai and Supermeme.ai solutions have a significant market presence and are recognized widely. So today we are talking a lot about various NLP applications, and it's great to have you here today, Ramsri, and thank you for accepting my invite.
Thanks a lot, Deepak. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been following your content on LinkedIn for quite some time, but great to chat in person and yeah, looking forward.
Thank you. Great to hear actually. So so I have a couple of questions for you today, and starting with this one. So, which NLP application is most widely used in the business world?
Hmm. I would say most recently semantic search. So vector embeddings from text and building semantic search applications. Since I've been also doing AI freelancing, quite a lot of people who approach it either for semantic search or uh, any GPT-3 based applications in the recent times. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think your solution also might be resembling something towards a vector embeddings, I think, right?
Yeah, in Super Meme, we do have a component where there is meme search. So semantic meme search, you can search with
Okay.
emotions, etc., and find relevant memes. We also have vector embeddings and vector database retrieval. We are using Pinecone at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, cool, pretty cool. So what are your thoughts on NLP's market share in comparison with other AI fields at this moment?
Hmm. I think if you go back a few years, uh, NLP's market share when compared with computer vision or traditional machine learning was not big enough. Mostly it was limited to building search and other things. And of course, if you have unprocessed data, then some applications built on top of that, some summarization and other things. But what happened, I think, in the recent times, one was with vector search. A lot of new applications have come up where they can build more sophisticated systems in search, and beyond that, GPT-3 and even Hugging Face, right? So because of the transformer-based models and all the things, now all the classification accuracies, and if you build any algorithms, it could be text generation like summarization or any other thing, the accuracies have improved to a great extent because of transformer based models, of course. And because of that, now large scale companies are also deploying this in production. Like BERT has been deployed by many companies in production, either for classification or even when recommendation systems are built. Previously they used to be very high level built on top of Elasticsearch, etc. Now you can go much deeper and build complex recommendation systems, both with transformer embeddings as well as deep neural nets and even ML ops to certain extent. Now, since ML ops has also grown to the point that you can deploy complex solutions at a relatively faster inference, that also propel the growth. So I do come from a bit of varied background within this domain, in the sense that I started out as computer vision engineer in 2011, and till 2018 I pretty much stuck with computer vision or a little bit of traditional machine learning. And only in 2018, because we were building a startup that had NLP focus, I got into NLP in mid 2018, etc. And so far I stayed with NLP because I could find interesting applications, as well as I saw that that has shown the biggest delta in the last few years. So yeah, that's my take on it.
That's great to hear actually. So, and when I started actually, like I was mainly deploying the stuff using Elmo embedding, and that gave so much confidence actually. And once the bird space came, like then things started improving a lot. Actually, I could see that significant improvement,
Right.
as you said.
I also followed that path where you have first contextual embeddings with Elmo,
Correct,
then you have universal sentence encoder,
correct.
then came BERT and other things. Prior to that, you have word vector embeddings, right? So I followed that
Correct.
path quite well. Yeah.
Great, great. So my next question. So do you think that transfer learning has increased companies' trust in NLP investment?
Um, I would say it's a bit 50-50 in the sense that with transformer based models, uh, there are definitely companies and libraries that come in the place of explainability of these models as well. But one way was that companies lost a little bit of explainability because previous models were kind of more or less, more explainable than transformer based ones. Because right now you talk about attention and you have attention maps and all those things, but still, um, in one way, when it comes to critical applications, yeah, it could be like medical, etc., where people want to have stronger baseline of taking that call, why a certain prediction is made, etc. Because I worked with a couple of companies, ROG AI, they use medical data for TB detection and early diagnosis and other things. So I could foresee when it comes to sensitive applications involving medical data, etc., there was still quite a bit of resistance. But when it
Mhm.
comes to general commercial applications where recommendation systems and other things like paraphrasing or any other summarization was involved, definitely it's a human in the loop system and nothing is mission critical, right? So people were
Correct.
definitely very interested in using transform based models. And I think in when it comes to adaptability, there are also few companies in the no code space or auto ML space that kind of automate the training pipelines, right? So if you have just text data or some other data where you have tagged them manually, right now you can just use the data and train a model. Prior to that, without AutoML or some kind of low code or no code tools, it would have been really complex. You should have a machine learning engineer and pay them well and other things, dedicated machine learning engineer. And now people with software engineering background can get a hang of it and deploy something in like 2 or 3 weeks with AutoML or some kind of low code no code tool. So that also improved the adaptability. So there are two sides to it, some pros and cons. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure. Yeah, yeah, that actually clarifies a lot of things. So, yeah, so which NLP frameworks are most commonly used in enterprise level applications or solutions?
Hmm. I think when it comes to enterprise level applications, of course, Spacey, NLTK, all these are quite popular, and Hugging Face transformers and similar things built on transformer models, or when it comes to applications in semantic search, there are several libraries like Haystack, Pinecone, VV8, and all these, right? So quite a lot of them are being used because people reach out for semantic search and I suggest some, and they tell me later after 1 month that they have implemented it in their company actually. So I kind of see that okay, it has reduced the barrier for easy adaptability. And yeah, so mostly the traditional libraries that we use, ranging from Spacey, NLTK to transformer based libraries, yeah, these ones.
Do, do you think that the adoption of these wrappers built on top of transformers and everything like becoming very popular nowadays in production?
Um, I think there are definitely several pros to it because whether it is making transformers training and deployment easier, there are several libraries built on top of transformers to make it easier, right? Training and other
Correct.
things. um, and beyond that, similarly for semantic search as well, like libraries built on top of existing vector databases, etc., they definitely increase the adaptability and ease of use for common folks who are transitioning from software background into NLP. And the cons being that any library or anything needs to be maintained. If a developer kind of just brings it up and then does not have time to maintain it, it doesn't increase the adaptability, simply because if someone is deploying something in production, they want it kind of battle tested, or most edge cases kind of taken care of, or supported by that library. But uh, I would say 90-95% of the libraries are kind of hobbyist libraries. So I over a weekend see that something could be built and I build on top of that. Great for uh, quite a lot of people to actually take it as a starting point and then explore further. But there are always pros and cons. Unless you maintain it to a good level, then adaptability will not be that widespread as well. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. So the biggest issue which I actually observed is like
Hmm.
often in production there have been multiple conflicts when it comes to these kind of
Exactly.
packages. And when we dockerize or anything, like it is sometimes it's very tedious if we are
Yeah.
not under. So for that reason, most of the times we actually switch back to the original version or the original root one
Right.
and then start building on it.
Very true. I've seen it many times where sometimes I have to go to a specific commit to make sure that that is the only commit that works and things like that, right? So there are
Right.
several complexities involved, because some of the libraries also mention in their setup just the external libraries that they are using. They
Mhm.
don't use version. So what happens is that when in the future when you are building it again, if the version is upgraded on pip to another new one, all this build fails, then you need to see what's the perfect configuration that works. So there's quite a lot of challenges, of course, dockerizing and deploying as well. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So my next question. So, uh, what is the major obstacle in the acceptance of NLP use cases in market?
Hmm. I think as long as we are increasing human productivity and in non-mission critical applications, people are okay with it. For example, nowadays copywriters, AI copywriters have become very popular, where you can write blogs with AI, etc. So if it can bring in a delta for somebody where it can increase the workflow, etc., people are generally very acceptive of that, and they're quite comfortable using that. But like I mentioned, with more power comes more responsibility. And if you are able to provide something with transformers but you cannot explain, then that becomes a problem. The reason why I say is, even when I'm building Questgen, it's just a quiz generation app. From text you can generate these multiple choice questions, true or false. But real world use cases are quite complicated. What they look for is when someone selected, let's say a kid is answering taking the quiz, and they selected choice C instead of B. They are looking for explainability why choice C is wrong, and why you should go for choice B. For example, sometimes in quizzes, when you select the wrong answer, in you might have taken Coursera courses as well, right? So there's a small text box that comes why that answer is wrong, etc. So a real world production use case deployment, people expect quite a lot. And it's challenging to get up to the point of delivering all those things, right? So I think that's mainly the adaptability problem, where people kind of, I mean, when a lot of uh, a lot of like edtech and medical tech and other domains, what they do is their reference is human baseline. And
Mm.
prior to transformers, you could not even compete with humans, so you would never deploy such solutions. Now you can compete with humans, but the problem is that who are coming from a non-AI or non-technical background, they kind of anticipate human level performance. So when you try to deliver that and fail, that becomes a problem. That's a challenge. So quite a lot of times, like when people approach me for consulting, etc., right? I have this problem where people are expecting quite a lot from it. So before taking up the job or anything, I kind of bring them on a baseline of what can be possible with current state of the art NLP, why there could be shortcomings in some areas, and why we need human in the loop system. So when they are on board with all of these, then only I feel comfortable to move forward. Um, because definitely I think when you're coming from a non-AI background and you don't know the capabilities of it, whenever it goes wrong, you look at it in a hard light than researchers who develop models. That's definitely there.
Correct. True. True. I agree to that. So over to the next point. So the application which you have built, so Questgen.ai. So could you explain a bit about that particular application and the motive behind that particular application?
Definitely. So back in 2018, we were me and my co-founder. Then we were exploring ideas at the intersection of AI and edtech, since she was from edtech background, and quite a lot of things. It was pre-COVID, so there were all these video analytics on live classes. That was one big area. Then recommendation, adaptive learning to students and content, showing content adaptively, that was one area. And the quiz generation, automated quiz generation, was one area. We were looking at what current state of the art AI can deliver and match it with current use case that's happening in edtech. And out of the three ideas, we almost spoke to 80 or 100 companies and heard multiple times that they are outsourcing their quiz creation process, the question generation process. And we thought, why don't we come in here and play? But in 2018, it was a complex challenge because the transformer based, I would say T5 and other transformers haven't really been in widespread use or come into play. So uh, whatever we used to build with LSTM based systems were not that good. So, but anyways, I we realized that the problem is ripe for disruption, and we went on board and we raised pre-seed, etc. But when we were raising our seed round, unfortunately, we had to close down company because of internal conflicts between the co-founders, and we completely closed down the company. And I moved back to India from Singapore, and then I realized, why don't I take a blended approach where move with the progress, which is as NLP models are developing and T5 and other things are coming up, and inference is also, MLOps is also scaling up for text to text generation. Let me try and take this problem at the intersection of AI and edtech and do independent research. That's what I did. By doing part-time consulting, I started doing independent research, released a GitHub library along with few interns. Most work was done by them. And after GitHub library in 2021, at beginning of 2021, I created a course, Udemy course, that currently stands at $6,500 in revenue. And last year, about around this time, I realized, okay, now that I got up, I could build some independent research in question generation, and I see that there is a course that made money, and there's a GitHub library that's growing. Why don't I make a SaaS out of it, like an offering where you can paste in text and just get questions in seconds. And I always wanted to operate on abstractions, since I didn't want to hire a full stack developer and support that all those funds, etc. I thought what's the leanest way possible, and then uh, thought of heard about Bubble.io. It's a no-code tool to create front full stack apps. Then I learned that for about a month and built my MVP, and slowly started learning each bit, which is signups, logins, authentication, then landing page building and copywriting for landing page, then SEO of landing page, then Stripe integrations and other payment integrations. So it's almost like I had something up and running. Slowly, I was learning and applying it to a real world project. Most people do a project and do it in their own collab notebook or something, but I was doing a real world project that is already in production. So that's how I learned quite a lot of things, as well as using GPT-3 in parts wherever it is necessary, combining it with T5 transformer models and other NLP techniques even. So when building Question, I got a strong overview of how you can combine GPT-3 cost effectively with T5 or text generation models, and using semantic search, vector embedding components with sentence transformers, SBERT, etc. So I use all of these in production in Question, and if not for anyone else, for me it was like perfect text bed to learn all the state of the art NLP technologies and put together in a real world product. Glad that currently it's profitable and it is at $400 monthly revenue. Let's see where it goes, but so far so good. Yeah.
Great, great, great. That's actually a great thing to hear, and you had put a lot of efforts, and I could see actually like a lot of stack like that entire. It's a big stack actually, like comprising of so many components, and I know that it's not pretty easy to build such a thing like, and you have built it with less manpower, so that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
And so coming to the next tool like regarding Supermeme. So like it's pretty interesting application, and I haven't seen an application like this, to be honest. So what is the inspiration behind this one?
Hmm. I actually it's a very interesting junction in the sense that starting this year, so I started learning more and more about creator economy and startups and everything, right? Then I realized that okay, Question is doing great. It's found its perfect niche at the intersection of edtech and AI. But I've seen people hitting 10,000 users in 3 months of launch and other things. Then I realized that entertainment has the highest target market. So they talk about TAM, target addressable market, and other things, right? So then, of course, if you build something where common audience on the road can understand, then you have the highest target market. But of course, competition is also like that. But simply in South India, we know, right? Movies has can draw the highest amount of crowd and all those things, and that's a very big business in itself. So you have to have that. For in order to gain any kind of virality, you need to have that virality embedded within the product itself. And if it's entertainment, everyone can understand it. So once I think for most of the things in hindsight, everything is common sense for humans, right? Of course, right now I say it and it looks like common sense, but when you're building apps, it's not really that straightforward. Then I realized, okay, why don't we do something at the intersection of AI and again entertainment? And in some sense, that idea as well as the super meme idea kind of came at the same time. So randomly, I was thinking about ideas that we could do. So there was a very secondary baseline for me that I could take, which is Copy.ai had the massive success with GPT-3, which is essentially you want to offer something to small and medium businesses, SMBs, where they cannot outsource something for $1,000. At the same time, they don't have the skill to build it themselves. if you create some level of augmentation at $50 price point or $30 price point per hour, they got to, I think, 1 million annual recurring revenue, etc. And we saw that there was huge growth there. So I was kind of looking at that and trying to see what else can we do in the similar space and replicate that success in slightly different area. Now it is copywriting or blog writing. What's the next thing? You have content creation where there are tools like Canva and other things. And of course, when you observe social media deeply, you cannot ignore memes because every 3 or 4 post memes come in, right? Then I realized, okay, can we do something for memes, and can we automatically generate memes? And I created a few prompts with GPT-3, and it was doing fairly well. That means most people think AI can't be humorous or sarcastic, etc. Right? So I tested with few prompts, and they're pretty decent. I mean, maybe it will not be top 1% memers, but an average person whose humor sense and creativity is kind of okayish, GPT-3 was able to compete or slightly outrun them. Then I thought, why don't we build this into a product? And then came the interesting part where I announced it publicly and other things. Then I've been following few people who would fit in well, because this time I didn't want to build everything myself like I did for Question, because it's a secondary project and I wanted that to be lightweight on me. If it goes big, then I can jump on it as the primary project. But just for building it, I didn't want to burn time, effort, and everything. And also, I got I pitched it to two people, and they joined as co-founders. And kind of like I always say that idea has no value. Like every day you wake up, you get an idea. So idea without execution has absolutely zero value. That's why I don't really take any credit for the idea, because I think everyone gets the idea. It's only because there was a full stack developer, Nico. He's based out of Netherlands, and I saw him on Twitter for some time, and he was building an app called Ship SaaS. Basically, it's a framework to build SaaS fast, and I love modern tech. So I pitched to him and he was on board. Then I saw Sanjeev, who makes memes big time. He has viral memes on LinkedIn and Twitter. Then I thought, uh, perfect again, because there should be a memer who is the CEO slash the face of the company. Then there should be an AI component that's handled by me. Then there should be a full stack app and development part. So we think we found the perfect trio, and in 3 weeks or 4 weeks we launched our MVP. Then we started, most of our growth happened through LinkedIn, Twitter, and then we launched on Product Hunt, and we got to Product Hunt number one. And fortunately, we are nearing almost 10,000 user signups, and that's a huge milestone for us, because in 5 months we got to 10,000 users. And we are at lower three digit MRR. Not bad, but definitely the conversions are not like regular SaaS. But we do believe that we are still early, and we need to fine tune the next set of feature implementation so that we get to ideal product market fit and get more growth. Yeah.
That's actually a pretty cool story, basically. So like coming out from that particular what to say, that idea, like how you guys implemented it, it's really nice. And see, like even though as you said, like the idea, like okay, idea is not new, but still like implementation actually matters. And like we are never thinking, okay, we can make use of AI to build this kind of new. So like
Hmm.
that conversion is really great. So,
Thank
over to my next question. So, like regarding the business value proposition of these kind of uh, models or use cases, like in terms of efficiency, savings, and profit, do you think that the NLP applications are actually up to the mark when it compare with other applications?
you. Very interesting point. Because a regular SaaS and AI SaaS, especially NLP SaaS, has few problems. Regular SaaS, let's say there's an independent developer, he or she can launch it for $30 or $40, and there are no huge operating costs. Whereas in NLP, you need to host the model. There are some serverless inferences that are promised, but still that's a gray area and still not solved fully. So at the end of the day, you are looking at higher operating costs. That's for sure. So when it comes to higher operating costs, one thing is that you burn money easily when you're trying to get to product market fit or offering value. Why I mean by that, what I mean by that is that even if you fine tune something and you later realize that that's not up to the mark, then you lost both time in model training, the compute costs, uh, and also the integration costs on the front end, right? Whereas when it comes to other features, they just do front end, back end, and done. The feature is implemented. Where here you have to do front end, back end, model training, and everything. Then it's done. Then you'll realize maybe that feature is not greatly appreciated, or you'll realize that the fine tuned model is not good enough than previous. So because of these reasons, there are significant challenges from the NLP side or the AI SaaS side, cost wise, training wise, and other things. Then there comes the other side, which is most non-technical people kind of who are not actually AI developers will look try to have a comparison with humans. Whether they accept it or not, it depends on every individual, but the human baseline is always there. Because whenever I for question, I show this app, most people like ask all these complex questions, which is right now in our system. Whenever there is a wrong answer checked, we also give the explanation, can you provide that? We have 6 levels of complexity in generating questions. That's what our teachers are trained on. Can you do that? So nothing wrong with them. It's what their internal systems are, and AI could deliver or could not deliver. It's up to us. So I think there are two pieces to this puzzle. One is you have to choose apps and applications where the delta is not significantly necessary. For example, when it comes to super meme, you don't really need to come to human level performance or something like that. Maybe they can just click on generate 4 or 5 times and you get some postable meme that could do the job sometimes, right? So you need to find applications that don't require high levels of complexity. For example, like in medical records, identifying things and other, unless you don't need that kind of complexity. I mean, in order to operate easily, you need to pick domains where the error cost is lower. It's just content creation or something like that. I mean, it could be even other use cases, but error cost should be lower. Not like airline, you have some problem and it's an issue, things like that, right? And the other part is that just as an individual or team, try to pick minimum level of features that require least cost to implementation. Because simply put, if you just give me enough compute, I will have one summarization model, I'll have some question generation model, I'll have some question answering model, then I'll have some sentence transformer model. I'll combine all these things and build my first question generation app, which will have a lot of filters, etc., so that high quality is maintained. But I cannot host all these four serverlessly and incur $1,000 bill, so I need to cut corners. So these are the challenges. Yeah.
True, true. I can understand that pain point actually. Right. So, regarding the deployment and production, and you mentioned about the MLOps, which is currently in place. So, like, how effective is MLOps at this point actually, and how we can actually try to improve in the new use cases?
Hmm. I think there are quite a lot of tools in the recent times that came up for ML ops, apps, funding as well. Quite a lot of startups. Um, I do think there are a few challenges. One is those companies who are offering serverless GPU, either they have a cold start of 5 to 7 seconds. That is the biggest they are working on, which is reducing the cold start. Then there are other companies. So that cold start is a problem for production apps. I cannot rely on that. That's one. Second thing is those who are not offering cold start, they are trying to do faster inference on CPU. That means instead of PyTorch, either you are using uh, Rust based compiler and faster inference there, or you are using other optimizations on top of that, Onyx conversions and other things, and you're building that. Still, maybe sometimes it's faster enough, but CPU inference might be slower for applications like text generation, etc. Then there are third level of companies which actually give fractional GPU. So they divide the GPU, let's say 12 GB GPU, into 4 GB fractions and rent out that thing so that you can avoid cold start and keep the cost low. But from my experience trying out at least 5 or 6 companies in this space, none of them solve the problem directly for me. That means either the cold start is a problem, or this fractional GPU implementation is to such a point that sometimes services are unavailable, so I have production outage, things like that. So in the end, so regular MLOps has quite a lot of things beyond deployment. You need monitoring, you need, data drift and other things. But to be honest, for a micro SaaS like me, I don't need all those complexities. All I need is just deployment at the moment. So let's just narrow down MLOps to deployment inference part, just for our understanding sake. So these are the challenges that I faced, and none of them actually solved. Like a lot of them are attempt to do it, because scalability is a problem, faster inference for text generation models especially is a problem. Because BERT, etc., I can understand if you're doing classification fairly sub-second, etc., you can get on CPU, or even sub-millisecond and all those things. But text generation is complex, right? Because first of all, transformer grows exponentially with length, and that's why if you have to take in some block of text and generate summary or anything else, it's a quite complex process, and faster inference is really a problem. So there are quite a lot of companies on MLOps that are trying to solve this, but I do think there is still a gap, because a few months back I was looking at just containerizing, Dockerizing a GPU inference for GPU inference a model, and there were no resources, proper resources at all. I had to find what's the ideal configuration of CUDNN and other things and put together a Docker container, even for GPU inference. And I released a video on Hugging Face on GPU inference on my YouTube channel. But nevertheless, whenever I explored deeper, there were challenges all the time. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, so like so mainly in my workplace and stuff, like we mainly use these paid services like Azure, Amazon. So we are not understanding that much pain actually, to be honest.
Well,
Yeah, but yeah,
well put. Because see, I cannot afford $400 GPU. So for a big
correct.
company, they can do that. In a way,
Correct.
I have to innovate or find a way, some way or the other, either this or fine tune GPT-3 and host the fine tune model or some other thing, so that I bring down the cost quite a lot. Yeah,
Hmm. Even the model size and everything matters, right? When it comes to the,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So my last question for today. So like according to you, like what is the future of NLP applications? Like looking at the range of applications which we have currently and where it's actually being progressing.
Hmm. I put my bets on multimodal AI. By multimodal AI, I mean combining both the image and text. for example, DALI combined with GPT-3 and doing other things. The only reason is that we as humans, whatever we do, it's a sensory thing for us, right? We combine our speech, text, vision, and everything that we see and do some action in the real world. And most of the, when you take something like video, etc., YouTube video, etc., it's not just about the visual, it's not just about the text. What they're speaking combined with the video, then if you want to really achieve or get closer to human level performance, we need to get closer to multimodal AI. I mean, solving that or getting to up to the mark of human level performance or trying to do that. So what I see is that the future would be when these large language models get to the point that they can take multimodal input and generate multimodal outputs, then I think we can do significant progress. And I do think it's kind of headed there, where right now you have DALI independently and GPT-3 independently. But sooner or later, maybe we could do encoding of a video or things like that into a vector in a multimodal space where you combine both text and video and other things. So you can do, for example, semantic search over videos and complex things, or build, video editing apps that are complex, things like that once multimodal AI progresses. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And whenever these APIs are available, I'll find some interesting applications and try to build on top of that. Yeah.
That's cool to know actually. So yeah, so that covers all my questions for today. And thank you, Ramsri, for giving such a great insight on all these aspects. And it has been a great piece of information, like regarding how you were approaching these kind of problems and how you are actually putting everything into production. So I hope like all listeners actually will get such a good clarity regarding, like, if at all, like if someone is actually getting into this field of building SaaS-based application using AI and NLP, because most of the people will be having a fear to actually jump into this,
Right.
because there is a ambiguity in this one actually. But like you have actually explained like what all things are possible and what's not. So yeah, this has been a really big inspiration to all. And thank you very much, Ramsey, for this talk actually.
Thanks a lot, Deepak, for hosting me. It's my pleasure and great to interact and chat. Awesome.